Black men really weren't interested in me because of the way that I sounded. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Fran and I am a single mom.com. I'm a single mom of 3 boys, ages 9, 7, and 2, and I'm pretty much doing it by myself. Full-time student, was full-time working, and I almost full-time lost my mind. But I'm still here and I'm still doing really great things with my kids. And now I have started this wonderful YouTube channel to connect with the other moms potentially out there, or other women or other dads or whatever, whoever, to kind of like get a glimpse into that single parenting life and just have a good time. Today I wanted to give a little bit of a backstory on my life, on how I kind of evolved into the person that I am today in terms of my choices in a partner and what has kind of molded that choice over time. So my parents were immigrants. They came to this country, to the United States. They immigrated here from Haiti with my eldest brother, with my older brother. They came into this country not knowing the language, not having any connects, and they pretty much built a life for us here in this country, my older brother, myself, and my younger brother in New York. And the neighborhood that I grew up in New York was predominantly Caribbean. My mother is a huge advocate for education. Considering that the neighborhood that she was raised in and that she grew up in Haiti, you know, education for young people was really something. You see my dog in the background. Education for young people was something that was really scarce. You would be able to receive education if you had money, basically if you came from a family of wealth. Of which my mother did not come from. She grew up poor. She was poor, you know, she was basically hustling on the street just to survive day to day. So when she came to this country, she really saw this country as being a wonderful opportunity to be able to grow something bigger than what she had when she was a child. That's my dog hacking in the background. She's a huge advocate, you know, for her children, you know, for education. She ended up going to school to get her degree. She got her GED, and she went and she took some college courses. She got training. She ended up providing for the family. When we moved to our neighborhood that was predominantly Caribbean, a little, you know, to put it, you know, lightly, a little hoodish, to put it plainly, actually, a little hood. My mom was really not about that culture. She really wanted us to focus on making sure that our studies were on point, that our language and our verbiage was on point, that we knew how to interact within different like social structures and situations. And she really wasn't having that like hood mentality, hood behavior. So as a result, she ended up making sure that I was placed in schools where they really valued that. And I ended up being somebody who sounded and looked very different than the rest of my peers that grew up in the neighborhood with me. And that became a little problematic for me, needless to say. When I would be in the neighborhood and people would hear me speak and I would sound like this compared to what, you know, other people would sound like that lived in my same hood, they viewed that, you know, my peers viewed that as me trying to sound white. And that was not necessarily something that like sat well with me. It wasn't that I was trying to sound white, it was just how I sounded, because basically my mother beat into my brain that you will have that standard American kind of vernacular, that standard American accent, and that the way that they spoke in the hood really didn't mesh with that kind of accent, and she was not about it. So when other people heard me that were from the hood, they thought that automatically, oh, you trying to sound white, you trying this, you trying that. And that caused a lot of problems, because then I couldn't really form any true friendships. I was picked on, you know, people looked at me as if I was kind of like a snob, you know, that I like thought I was better than them. And really, like, I wasn't. It's just how my mother had raised me, and that caused a lot of like self-esteem issues within me from a very young age. I just remember being in middle school and thinking to myself, I wish I just had like some friends and some people who would accept me for how I sound.
Side note, this was outside of a really super strong supportive church family that I had that really accepted me, how I was, what I looked like, and how I sounded.
I'm not trying to sound this particular way, but it just is what it is. That's just how it is. And not only did I lack in friendships, but eventually I also lacked as I grew older and became of age, I also lacked in romantic relationship opportunities. I felt that Black men really weren't interested in me because of the way that I sounded, and I felt like that made me a little unapproachable, I guess. So instead of people coming to approach me, even though I felt like, you know, I'm a pretty enough person. I valued education just as much as my mom did. So like I was book smart. I was decent on the eyes, and I felt like I was kind of funny. I could have like a conversation with people, you know, and laugh, and we could joke and kick it or whatever, but they just never really went for me. And that really kind of bothered me and stuck with me all the way into adulthood, when it became time for me to look for a serious partner. And Black men not being interested in me kind of left that impression that, man, I'm not ever going to be able to be with a Black partner, with an African American partner, with a Caribbean partner, with, you know, whomever. They just weren't interested in me. And that kind of like steered me towards dating people that were outside of my race. And I use the word race loosely because, as we all know, race really is a construct of superiority and dominance. Really, there's only one race, which is the human race, but just for general typical understanding, I'm going to use the word race to denote people of darker skin tones such as myself, or melanated peoples versus Caucasian or Asian or other people groups. So anyway, my love life was affected by the fact that I was not accepted into the Black community. Not really like mine up. Okay, let's just put it simple. Really me up. I steered away from even trying to engage to the point where like it looked like, you know, perhaps somebody who was African American was interested in dating me, but I wasn't sure. And I thought maybe they were just trying to like play me, or they were trying to like, you know, like maybe they thought that they could try to like do something extra on the side, but not really like commit. So I even started to like shy away from African American men and think, okay, well, obviously they're not, you know, if they are trying to kick it to me, they're not kicking it to me because they are actually genuinely interested in me. They're probably kicking it to me because they, you know, think I have a pretty face, or they like my body, and that's all they want from me. And that kind of had me developing, or trying to develop and ground romantic relationships with people of other cultures and races, and I felt more accepted by those other cultures. So I ended up dating white men, I dated Asian men, I dated like white American men, I dated European men. Just never got around to really dating Black men because they did not find interest in me. I ended up marrying and having children with a white man, which, you know, now in hindsight, looking at the relationship, although it, you know, it did not, you know, pan out, and it's not something that was successful for us, I realized that I'm grateful that I was able to get my children from this man, but perhaps my destiny is really to be with somebody who looks more like me, who can relate to me a little bit more. And perhaps that person was not genuinely in the relationship for the type of person who I was, but more for the fact that I was brown skinned. And that was something that was interesting to them, if you understand what I'm trying to say. I just, kind of wished that I had that opportunity to really like be with and romantically involve myself with somebody who looked like me. And not to say that I kind of regret the experiences that I had, because I feel like it has molded me into the type of person that I am today. But I do feel that I am lacking in that department with Black men. And now as a result, as I'm older and I'm more aged, I feel like, still I have that issue with, finding, somebody who is African American who genuinely wants to connect with me. But it's something that I'm exploring about myself, and I'm grounding myself more in my roots. At one point, because I had been so rejected in my community, in my neighborhood growing up, I altogether rejected like being Black, and that really sucked. I felt like my skin was too dark. I felt like my hair wasn't beautiful unless it was like straightened. I felt like my butt was too big. That was like the worst part, because I have like a generously sized behind, and the images that I kept seeing on television, considering that I had been kind of so much rejected by the people in my neighborhood, just because I didn't sound or look like them. That image that I was like now seeing on television, this Eurocentric image of beauty and their standards, I so desperately wanted to like meet those beauty standards. And that really like messed me up for a long time. Needless to say, now I am reinvestigating my culture, reinvestigating my roots, and I'm so deeply now invested in intertwining myself with that culture that I can't see doing or being in a romantic situation with anybody else other than somebody who looks like me. Granted, some people might call that racist, but you can't call that racist because I have a white, husband and 3, biracial babies. The message that, is so important that I've kind of learned over time is, even though there are going to be people who reject you for what you look like, stay true to who you are. Stay true to who you are, know who you are, and dig deeper into who you are. No matter how much they tell you that you're not like them, or like they just aren't really open to accepting you as part, just stay true. Just know who you are and be happy with what you have to offer, because there's gonna be a time when you are going to be in the right circumstances around the right people who are going to cultivate healthy, strong relationships, be it friendships, romantic, otherwise. And those are the people who are going to really help you manifest all of the things, all the wonderful things that this universe has planned for you. So hold tight to that. Don't let it go. I know that I haven't, and I'm still pushing and digging deeper into my roots so I can find myself. And I want to encourage anybody who has felt the same way that I have felt back when I was younger, and who is now maybe like, trying to figure out who they are. You know who you are. You just need to take a minute to silence the chaos that's around you and dig deep and find yourself. You will. You will. Anyway, if you like this content, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I am excited to share some deeper parts of my life with you guys, for you guys to come along with me and take this journey with me. So if you like the content, go ahead, subscribe. Go ahead and put your notification bells on. Go ahead and comment if you have experienced something similar. Go ahead and comment. I'd love to hear about some other people's experiences, and hopefully I am not alone in having experienced self-hate, and I use that word really loosely, but that's the only word, or self-distaste, or a community distaste towards you. I know I'm not the only one. So if you can relate to this, go ahead and comment below. I'd love to hear what your experience was and what you got to say. Anyway, that's all for now. I will see you in the next video. Bye.